Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about the controversial new trailer for the upcoming first-person shooter game Battlefield 5. This once beloved franchise appears to have finally caved in to progressive politics and SJW agendas, which really shouldn't be that surprising since the game's developer DICE is located in Sweden, or Swedenistan, which is what the local Muslim invaders prefer to call their newfound home. Sad to see a once great nation like Sweden, descendants of fucking Vikings by the way. Well, it's sad to see recently that the Swedes aren't the confident, defensive, warrior pirates their ancestors used to be. No, modern Swedes are beta male cucks, who are so riddled with white guilt and socialist tendencies, basically they're communists, and apparently now they're allowing left-wing politics to take over their country, and their home, and their companies, their businesses, and now their video games. And along with open borders and unlimited immigration, social justice warriors also of course push for diversity and representation, which really means they want to put more women and minorities in everything. This brings us back to the Battlefield 5 game, which had an interesting trailer that did just that. Released in the middle of last week, it almost seemed like a joke someone would make as a parody of SJW's ruining video games. Check this clip out.
Fuck it! Hello, old friend.
There's just so many things wrong here, I don't know where to start. First, we got a woman soldier on the front lines in World War II. Needless to say, this is not only historically inaccurate, it's also not very realistic. This woman looks way too overpowered to me. I hate to break it to the SJWs, but girls have smaller frames and muscle structures than men. Sure, girls can fight too. It can happen, but it's not with the sheer brutal strength like the girl in this trailer has. And that's not even mentioning the fake hand. She's an amputee, handless, small-framed girl out and about in a war zone. She wouldn't have lasted 2 hours out there in a real war, you better believe that, but alas, this is a game and this is a reenactment, a fantasy where people can potentially pick and play whatever kind of character they want, but you can clearly see the ridiculous SJW agenda here too. DICE is trying to make this trailer and this game all pro-women, pro-equality, and even going so far as to go pro-handicap people too. Sure, I know some of these guys would say they're handy-capable, but this isn't fucking Jimmy on South Park.
Oh, hey Jimmy, what's going on?
Well, Bertha, I was wondering if I could stick my penis in your vagina.
What? No way!
But the talent show is tomorrow.
Oh, jerk!
The rest of the Battlefield trailer seems decent enough. The game and the graphics look amazing even, but it's really hard to get past all this girl-dominated stuff in the trailer.
Find cover!
Bloody move!
There's two girls coming in gunning in the first shot. This scene goes on with a pretty beautiful long one-take shot, but the girls are a bit distracting. I gotta say it too, this reminds me a lot of the feminization of Star Wars lately. Obviously Disney has had a SJW agenda since they rebooted Star Wars back in 2015, with The Force Awakens of course featuring this new female Mary Sue character named Rey, who's cute, yes, and in great shape, but her knack for knowing everything and being good at the Force and Jedi stuff right away, it just kind of feels cheap. It's too quick and she didn't earn it, but that's the story of things in this new, modern, Disney Star Wars era. The next Star Wars movie, Rogue One, did the same thing too. They had a cute female leading lady who was overpowered and good at everything. And before I get sidetracked too much about these movies, let's come back to video games, because not only did the Star Wars Battlefront 2 game also feature a female leading lady in its story mode, it was also made by none other than DICE, the same company making this Battlefield 5 bullshit we're looking at today. So now that we've come full circle, it's pretty clear that DICE is all feminist and pro-women now, as they have been for years. Fortunately, from what I've heard, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was still a good game, despite the progressive main character, and maybe, hopefully, Battlefield 5 doesn't suffer much from this crap either. We'll have to wait and see.
Hello, old friend.
You fuck!
On your feet!
Here we go!
You know, I heard another rumor about this game. I hear there's a new healing mechanic for Battlefield 5 as well. In addition to collecting medkits to replenish your health, players also need to collect pads and tampons so your character doesn't have their period all over the battlefield. That's just gross. Don't worry though, there's going to be a small calendar on the bottom of the screen that will help players track their cycles. And you can even check a little meter down there to see how heavy your flow is that day. Welcome to the progressive SJW Battlefield 5, everyone. Yay! But really, this trailer looks decent enough aside from from the distracting amount of small-framed women in battle. There's also that claw hand the amputee main girl has. Yeah, this chick with the claw is the flagship character for this game, believe it or not, and it really sounds like a lot of people can't believe it. No one wants to play as a weak, handicapped woman in a war game. We want jacked up superhero-looking dudes, preferably ones with hands for shooting. Now I know other games have done the lost hand thing in the past, and in fact, this even reminds me of Star Wars once again, which has a running gag of people losing arms and hands in it, but for now, let's skip that and talk about Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. This game from 2015 featured a handless main character as well, and I'm going to take a minute to explain why it worked in that game so much better than how it looks in Battlefield 5 here. You see, it's mostly because Metal Gear Solid's main character is Snake, an iconic, highly recognizable protagonist who's been written and produced by Hideo Kojima for almost his entire run. He's a legend too, but let's focus on Snake. Snake's a spy, a secret agent, government secret type character. Snake is essentially an American James Bond type, except probably more strategic and undercover focused. Anyway, the latest game, The Phantom Pain, starts off with an aged Snake waking up in a hospital after losing his hand. In this game, we start off as an old, disabled, weakened Snake, and that works pretty well. Being the 5th entry in its franchise, hobbling Snake a little bit at the beginning is a nice way to bring more challenge to the game. It's also interesting because Snake started off as this perfect superhero spy guy, and now later down the line they've changed things to make things fresh and more challenging and interesting. Well done. But with Battlefield, it's a much different story. Even though both games have long storied franchises, and they both happen to be in the 5th entries now that I think about it, but the thing is, Battlefield hasn't built up an interesting badass main character like Snake. In fact, Battlefield isn't even that story driven at all. It doesn't have story driven campaign focused kind of gaming. The Battlefield series focuses on large multiplayer battles online. You sign in, pick a random character, and then jump into these multiplayer matches. So in this situation with a different game, different style, do you really think people will want to pick random small female characters with missing hands or eyeballs or some shit? Not really. Sure, I'll bet some people will pick crazy looking characters for fun or as a joke or something, but this gets into another issue I have with this setup. In actuality, these kinds of additions to the game could work, but they shouldn't just be these cosmetic for looks kind of things. That seems cheap and like DICE is just putting them in there to be progressive and down with crippled people and girls. A smarter move would be to have these handicapped options actually matter and make the characters different depending on if you pick a guy or girl. Like say if you pick a handless girl, you would get a penalty somehow. Like your aiming is more shaky because you're missing a hand and you don't have as much strength because you're a woman. Something like that. But then they could also give you bonuses for it too. Like say you're better at melee attacks because you have that claw hand to scratch people with. And girls could be faster and quicker because they're smaller. If the mechanics in Battlefield end up working like this, the differences between male and female and having a certain handicap with trade-offs and whatnot, then DICE could be onto something legitimate here, but I got a sneaking suspicion it's just going to be cosmetic and gay, and just pointless additions thrown in there to be pro-social justice.
There's some ammo!
Okay, next let's talk about realism a bit more. Clearly this game isn't lacking in the graphics department. The guns, the vehicles, the explosions, the big battles, everything looks amazing, which is why I think it's so conflicting when they put in all these small, crippled female characters. The Battlefield series has always been this realistic, super detailed take on wars, particularly World War II a lot of the time like in this game, or like how they did World War I in Battlefield 1. For the most part, Battlefield goes for these hyper-realistic styles and looks, and that's a big part of the reason throwing all these girls in there throws the whole game off. Let me compare this to another game again so you can see what I'm talking about better. The Wolfenstein games come to mind when I think about this because those games are also set in World War II, the Allies versus the Nazis. But Wolfenstein has a much more creative, over-the-top, even mystical spin on things. Basically in Wolfenstein, the Nazis become superpowered, gaining weapons and technology far beyond what's in the actual real world. And this works great for Wolfenstein because it has a good story that explains things, and it's not meant to be completely realistic after you get started. Battlefield, on the other hand, is supposed to be realistic. It's a hyper-realistic World War II thing all the time, and without any kind of story to give proper explanations to why all these handless girls are running around kicking ass, it just seems weird and doesn't really make sense. And it's definitely conflicting with the series' usual realistic tone.
Fuck it!
Hello, old friend.
I mean, I hate to overemphasize this point, but seeing this girl come up and save you bashing someone with a board having a missing hand is a bit daunting. It's highly distracting and out of character for the time. They might as well have Wonder Woman come in and save you. In fact, Wonder Woman did that in her own movie last year. Granted, it was during World War I, but Wonder Woman did swoop into battle and save a bunch of dude soldiers who were in trouble. And there they reacted properly. The saved people were grateful, of course, but they were also looking at Wonder Woman in awe. They just saw a superhero enter battle and save their lives. This is like seeing Superman fly into town and save you from getting hit by a car. That's how out there and far-fetched this little scene in Battlefield 5 is too, in this trailer. Only I don't think DICE quite realizes how daunting it is. How odd. That or they're trying to make it look normal and probable, making it look like a girl could do something like this, which could be even worse of a problem. It's no wonder this trailer is getting disliked into oblivion right now, getting almost 300,000 dislikes in less than a week. The fans are really getting sick and tired of this SJW bullshit, and that's why almost all the top comments on this trailer are negative. Things start off with a nice singer saying, Mad Max Normandy Road, a funny nod at the 2015 movie Mad Max Fury Road, of course, which was also taken over by a dominating female cast. Sure, Max was still in the movie and it was still a good picture, but it was also clearly feminized. Feminized like so much shit we've seen since then. Mad Max, Star Wars, movies, TV shows, comic books, and of course video games like Battlefront, and now Battlefield 5 apparently. The SJW madness never ends. Next, Pep says, haha, and I was worrying because I thought Battlefield would kill Call of Duty this year. I guess you don't have to worry about that anymore. Well, yeah, as far as I heard it, Call of Duty is going to be SJW and feminist free. Battlefield 5 though, well, I think it's going to be a hard pass for me and many others at this point. Next, John says, but April Fool's was last month. Nice. Ripperino asks, can we play as a fat black woman? Now since you got the gender thing sorted out, what about fat thick characters? You think only skinny people fought in war? Hashtag we need fat players. That is a pretty good point. Is DICE really going to be anti-body positivity after all this? This really makes me want to play as a 300-pound transgender Muslim who's missing a leg and an eyeball. DICE, you better make this happen. Do it or you're a bigot. But really, all kidding aside, this is a good time to mention that you can never please these social justice warriors. First they want more girls, and then it's all girls and all minorities. Then it's no men allowed at all. No straight people either. It really never ends with them. And this brings me to another argument I heard about this Battlefield 5 situation. Some are trying to say you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Meaning that if they didn't do this pro-women thing, then the SJWs would have complained. And now that they did it, the normal anti-SJW people are complaining. We're complaining. So allegedly they think you just can't win here, but I say that's all wrong. First of all, you can never please SJWs, so you might as well not even try. They will always find a way to bitch about something, even if you do everything you can to appease them. But that brings me to my greater point. Why is DICE even trying to please SJWs anyway? They don't even buy fucking video games. Not Battlefield games, that's for sure. All they're doing here is trying to woo and seduce the SJWs into playing their games. But they're doing it at this cost of pissing off their actual fan base. As much as the left hates us, straight white males are the ones actually playing and buying these games. Well, we were before they started all this bullshit SJW crap. DICE should be trying to please its current fans, because pissing them off to try and bring in new fans is never going to work. Now no one's going to play your game, because at the end of the day, SJWs don't buy games. They don't even like or play video games at all. No, SJWs are just culture vultures who try and invade popular spaces with their fucked up communist politics. They invade and destroy things like video games, movies, Battlefield, Battlefront, and even the once cherished franchise of Star Wars. Social justice warriors go after these things because they're popular, and companies that go after social justice warriors deserve to fail. DICE, you done it fucked up this time. You're going to be paying for it big time when no one buys this game this year. What do you guys think? What was DICE thinking when they made this trailer? Why are so many Battlefield fans upset about it? And will the SJW trends in media ever die down? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.